Welcome to the Pokemon P&P Nuzlocke. This is a Nuzlocke combining elements of D&D with Pokemon, meaning there'll be lots of dice rolling. P&P Nuzlocke is something that I created myself and has never been done before. So what are the rules of P&P Nuzlocke? Before you start a run, you roll a d6 for each of the 3 base stats, those being catching, your ability to catch a Pokemon, training, which affects the ability for Pokemon to learn moves, and charisma, to determine the stock and stores you can purchase. The number rolled on the d6 for each stat will reflect how many points you have in the stat at the start of the game. If you roll a 1 or 2, you add 1 point to the stat. If you roll a 3 or 4, you add 2 points to that stat. If you roll a 5 or 6, you add 3 points to the stat. These stats are just your base stats from your playthrough. There is a way to add more stats, or level up if you will, as you progress through the game. Every 2 gyms that are defeated is essentially a level up. What that means is you earn 1 stat point that you can apply to any of the 3 stat categories of your choosing. So when you beat 2 gyms, you get to add 1 stat point to any of those categories, and the same thing when you beat 4 gyms, 6 gyms, and 8 gyms. When you roll for encounters, you roll a d20. Whatever number you roll on the die gets the points in your encounter stat added to the roll, thus increasing the likelihood of catching a Pokemon. When you roll to learn a move, you roll a d20. Whatever number you roll on the die gets the points added in your training stat, thus increasing the likelihood of Pokemon learning a move. When you want to buy an item from a mart, you roll a die to determine how many of that item you can get. You get to add more dice to your roll based on your charisma stat. 1 point equals 1 additional die, 2 points equals 2 additional die, etc. Now, in addition to player perks, there's also Pokemon perks. Think of this as a reward for getting through a dungeon or beating a boss in a D&D campaign. When a Pokemon participates and successfully defeats a gym, a Pokemon can do one of the following. Get to learn a TM, and this is the only way you can learn TMs. Get a held item. Pokemon cannot have a held item unless they get this perk. Pokemon that are caught with a held item can keep it on them, but the item can only be removed and not replaced unless this perk is obtained. Get a revive. Lose the ability to get all items or TMs for all your surviving gym participants and instead gain 1 revive that can be used once to revive a single Pokemon of your choosing. However, you must roll a d20 for a death saving throw, and the roll must be a 10 or higher. If you don't get a 10 or higher, the Pokemon does not revive and the revive is lost. This item may not be used mid-battle, but can be used after battle, even if you white out or blackout, meaning it can save you from a game over. You may not obtain more than 3 revives in a playthrough. And finally, if you don't want any option for a Pokemon, they just get the reward of a job well done. When it comes to encounters, only the first Pokemon on each route may be caught. Grass encounters are separate from water encounters, but can be changed based on your playstyle. Pokemon encountered in the wild must be rolled to see if they are catchable. If not, you lose the encounter. The idea behind this is essentially that you roll to see if the Pokemon has interest in joining your party. Catching the Pokemon is more like convincing them to join once they have interest. If they don't have interest, you can try to convince them as much as you want, but they just won't join. So when you get an encounter, you will roll a d20 and add your catching stat bonus to the roll. The number has to be greater than or equal to 8 to be able to catch it. Rolling a 1 is an automatic failure, and the encounter for that route is lost. Not only that, but the Pokemon warned its fellow Pokemon about you, so you lose the grass encounter and water encounter in the route, if not already obtained. Rolling a natural 20 allows you to decide to re-encounter for free, but you must take the next Pokemon no matter what. Also, if you accidentally kill the first Pokemon, you can try again to encounter that route. If you kill the re-encounter, then you're out of luck. When it comes to static Pokemon like legendaries and gifts, they can be obtained as a free party member. It does not count as an encounter and no encounter rolling is necessary. The only exceptions to the catching rule are shinies, which can be caught regardless of whether a Pokemon was caught there or not already. You do not need to roll to see if you can catch them either. Also, if a species was already successfully caught, you may re-encounter for new Pokemon. When it comes to move learning on level up, you must roll to learn level up moves. The amount you need to learn is based on the power of the move. Status moves count as 0. So moves between 0 and 60, you roll a d20 and add your training stat bonus. The total has to be greater than or equal to 8. Moves between 61 and 99, the total has to be greater than or equal to 12. Moves 100 and up, the total has to be greater than or equal to 16. TMs can only be learned if the Pokemon participated in a gym fight and earned that perk. These do not have to be rolled for when earned by your Pokemon. Now there is a day cycle in P&P Nuzlocke. Pokemon need to have a full rest to be able to gain their strength back. A day is 2 hours in real time. This time can be manipulated as necessary for your playthrough, make it longer or shorter to make it easier or harder for you, whatever piques your interest. After a day is up, Pokemon in your party need to rest and be switched out of the party. The 2-hour clock is a global clock, not for each individual Pokemon. As soon as you switch your party out, a new 2-hour clock starts. You may not just sit around and wait for the timer to end to switch Pokemon. You must keep progressing with a team as long as you can. Some exceptions may prevent you from switching Pokemon, such as if you're in the middle of a fight or in a story mode portion of the game where you cannot access your PC. If that's the case, you must switch your party out at the next available opportunity. The way you get Pokemon out of your PC is through Pokemon PC Roulette. This is how you determine which Pokemon get added to your party. You must roll a die to determine what Pokemon will replace the now dead or resting party member. The die will differ depending on how many Pokemon are in the PC. Some examples are, if there are 9 Mons in the PC, roll a d10, with each PC slot correlating to a number in numerical order. If a 10 shows up, just re-roll. If there are 17 Pokemon on the PC, roll a d20, and if you roll 18, 19, or 20, just re-roll. If there's 21 or more Pokemon in the PC, roll a d6 to determine the column and a d6 to determine the row. With there only being 5 rows, if a 6 is rolled, you must re-roll. Whatever box the column and row intersect on is the Pokemon added to your team. If there's no Pokemon in the slot that correlates to the dice roll, re-roll till you get a new Pokemon. If you roll the same PC slot again, re-roll till you get a new Pokemon. If there are 6 or less Mons on the PC, rolling is not necessary. They will just replace the party starting with the member who has been in the party the longest. The only exception to this rule would be Pokemon that knows a move like Surf or Fly may be added to the team to get from point A to B. These Mons aren't to be used in combat unless they are the last Pokemon available, and they should be removed as soon as possible. When it comes to combat, dice rolls and chances are mostly done by the game already, with features like accuracy on moves, PP, items taking a turn, etc. So me adding too many more rules here would be absolute overkill. One of the rules I will be adding is roll for initiative. Before every trainer battle, a d6 must be rolled to determine which party member will be the lead Pokemon. Each number on the die will correspond to the slot of the party that Pokemon is currently in. If there is no Pokemon or living Pokemon in the slot rolled, re-roll till you get a valid Pokemon. Basically, they have the initiative in combat and they get the first attack. In the event of a double battle, 2d6 dice will be rolled. If both numbers are the same, the second die will be re-rolled. The only other combat requirement is battle settings must be set, so no switching before the trainer sends out a Pokemon. Now, when it comes to shop, you can only buy each item from each shop location once. So that would be Pokeballs, Full Heals, Great Balls, etc. You must roll to see how much stock each Pokemon has before you buy the item. The reason behind this is to act as a limited stock. You're essentially rolling to see how much stock they have to purchase. Vendors only have so much of a given item. Also, they must maintain some supplies for other trainers. Since you're a 10-year-old on crack making their way through the gyms like crazy, vendors can't fill their stocks back before you become champion. If this wasn't the case, there would be unlimited items because you could just rotate shops. A tip for this would be to log on a spreadsheet to help you keep track of the items purchased and from where. Now, an additional rule here is if you roll and find out that a mart has 15 Ultra Balls, for example, but you can only afford 12. The remaining are sold to other trainers and are lost. You cannot come back and buy them at a later date. The dice you roll for items are different based on the rarity of the item, as seen on screen right now. Basically, the rarer the item, the lower the dice number. Now, some additional Nuzlocke rules are, the Nuzlocke doesn't start until you get your first Pokeball, of any kind. Meaning, any encounter you get before the first Pokeball doesn't count as a lost encounter. Additionally, if your starter mon dies before you get Pokeballs, it can be revived without restarting. When a Pokemon dies in the game, it dies for real. F's in chat. Pokemon must be nicknamed for extra attachment. So if you mess up, you go into a spiral of guilt, depression, and shame. If you white out or black out, it's game over because the enemy Pokemon actually kills you. I know, you never kill other trainers when you beat them, even though you may want to. But other people aren't as nice as you. They really don't care if you're only 10 years old. Those are the basic rules of P&P Nuzlocke. Feel free to add more rules, add a randomizer, as whatever you want to, but these are essentially the rules of it. I will be doing a stream of this on my channel, on the date on screen. If you guys want to join and see how things work out, I will be doing a randomizer personally with mine, with some additional level boosts and that kind of thing. So if this is of interest to you, definitely check that out. Otherwise, feel free to try it out on your own. I hope it goes well, and as I try this out on stream, I might see what works well and where it doesn't work well, and I might modify it as necessary, making a newer version of this in the future. But anyways, thank you guys all so much for watching, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.